Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we have a returning guest. He is not only the author of seven of the stories in this book, he's also the editor of Symptoms of the Universe, a tribute to Black Sabbath. Welcome back, my man, J.C. Masix the third. J.C., welcome back.
Travis, it is always great to be with you, my friend. You look great. You sound great. I love this show.
Thank you, my friend. You as well, man. You as well. I'll be following you on Facebook, man. I see you're in the gym and you're getting no workouts in every day.
Always got to stay in shape. It's the way you burn off negative energy.
Amen, brother. Amen. So tell us a little bit. So look, I had you on before, and you talked a little bit about it, but the book is out now. It's ready. It's on Amazon, Godless, wherever you get books. Tell us, for anybody who didn't see the first interview, tell a little bit about Symptom of the Universe.
Yes, absolutely. As you know, we had there's a previous collaborator, and I had worked on this on a previous version of this, and we had worked to try and get a good book going on, but there were a lot of things that kind of fell apart on that one, and we can get into some of that if you want. I don't want to name names, as you know, but we, ultimately what happened was when that project crashed and burned, the authors of the stories that were there came to me and they said, "Look, JC, we like the way you do things. We like the way you've been editing us. We like the feedback you've been giving us. Please keep this going." And I said, "Well, okay, yeah. I mean, the contracts for the previous version are null and void. I'm proud of what we've done. Let's do it." And continued to get that done. We got a lot of new authors. We got a new publisher, and it all came together. And I got to say, I'm extremely proud of the way it's gone. And just like before, even though it's a different charity, all the proceeds are going to charity, which is the Ronnie James Dio Cancer Fund. It is definitely very much a tie-in with Black Sabbath, and
yes.
I highly recommend. I'm proud of this book, not just for my stuff, but for everybody in this. You've got so many great stories ranging from, you got some splatter punk in there. You've got some horror comedy. You got some just absolutely crazy science fiction type stuff, all with horror in it, of course. This is the horror realm.
Yes.
Horror realm. But it's all scary as hell, but it's all a lot of fun, and you're going to get very, very differing things in here. It's not just one thing, but goes from Twilight Zone to just mind bending to absolute crazy horror, supernatural, bloody, whatever you want. You got at least one story there.
I love it, man. And listen, as a rock fan as well as a horror fan, for the longest time, rock and horror went hand in hand. I mean, but like I would say in the '90s, that kind of disappeared. What happened?
Well, I really think that something happened in the '90s that you kind of see every once in a while, where there's a paradigm shift, and you saw this kind of in the movie industry on the whole in the '70s. Sometimes it has to do with certain auteurs getting older, stepping out of it. Sometimes it just has to do with the thought of the age. Sometimes it has to do with new technologies taking over. I really think what ended up happening in the '90s when it came to rock and horror were a couple of different things. One of them is that you had heavy metal was no longer dominant. It had gotten to a certain point that it had been very much watered down. You had a lot of glam metal. You had more makeup than you had horror. You had, Alice Cooper was making some great hits in the late '80s, early '90s, but all of that sort of just fell backwards. You got grunge, which, hey, I like grunge too. It's great. But you had that kind of took over. You had very much less of the real heavy metal. You had very few who were hanging on. And at the same time, you saw kind of this different shift where horror, as in movies, horror movies had gotten a little bit more self-aware, where they had to be making the joke all the time. It had to be, I like a lot of these movies. I like Scream. I like, I can enjoy what is it? I Know What You Did Last Summer. Maybe not the greatest, but can be fun to watch. But it got to the point where all of these different ideas, they had to be comical. They couldn't just be straightforward horror. And so when you had rock and roll was kind of, becoming something else, and you had horror was kind of watering down a little bit, you no longer have that real strong combination. You're not going to see a hit in the mid '80s. I'm sorry, the mid '90s with Black Sabbath. You know, they tried it. They
Yeah.
even collaborated with Ice T, and it didn't really take off. Uh, but yeah, I think that is a big thing that had to do with it. It's just they had to go in their different directions, and the twain did not meet again until really the 2000s, in my opinion.
Now, do you think heavy metal? I mean, do you think music in general has kind of died over the last couple of years?
I think that there are the occasional more underground people who are able to keep it alive. And when it comes to rock and roll, uh, there is one name. I think he's really kind of doing something else now, but for a long time, Frank Black was making some real serious experimental rock and roll, and he was creating. Not only there was some scary stuff. I mean, he did a remake of 666 by Larry Norman, and he had this kind of sinister edge to it. He did a remake of The Black Rider by Tom Waits, which was ended up being very sinister. He also had a really good time experimenting with various different types. It wasn't always scary. He was always great. And I think that he was one of the ones, and people who were surrounding him kind of kept rock and roll going, and were able to infuse, different moods, including horror. But I think that even that, he's gone back to the Pixies. He's making music with the Pixies. Love the Pixies, but this Frank Black and the Catholic stuff, that was when he was really doing some experimental stuff and kind of keeping rock and roll alive in a way that I think very few, not ultra indies, were doing. And got to respect him for that. So I don't think it's dead. I think that you've got a lot of these guys have the potential to come back, but I do think that as a commercial force, we're just not really seeing that anymore. I think we're not really going to have an era like the late '70s, early '80s anymore, where true author driven rock and roll is allowed to be scary, is allowed to be insane, but it's still going to be a top 10 hit. I don't think we're going to see that again, and if we do, it'll be quite a while from now.
And I agree. I 100% agree. Now, talking about the indie horror writing scene right now, there's a lot of crazy shit going on. I'm not going to detail about names, but but you kind of mentioned a little bit with your partners and stuff. What the fuck is going on in indie horror writing right now? Why is it so much toxic drama and bullshit?
I think that it in some ways it's come down to a few bad apples. I think, and I'm sorry if that sounds like a cop out, but I really think it's true. Is that when you have some of these people who they feel like they're very entitled, they feel like everything is against them, and they've got to fight back all the time, and it's like, no, I've got to feel my feelings. I got to push back. I've got to say this. I got to get this off my chest. Well, then the next guy is going to have to say something else. And that next guy may be a little bit more reasonable, but it's still pushed to another area. It's kind of pushed a little bit farther. And we've got a couple of people that both you and I know, that they seem to thrive on drama as opposed to thriving on creation. I watch your show. I listen to Travis Bruce talk. I've never once seen you get into, seeing somebody be dramatic and freak out, and you rubbing your hands together and think that this is great. I've never seen you stoop to a level, somebody's lower level. I've always seen you try to, keep a very professional attitude, an intelligence to it, showing your knowledge of things. I've never seen you be condescending. There are a couple of guys out there who both you and I know that they think, number one, that they are just the top of the pops, the bee's knees. They know everything that there is to know, and that the indie horror community owes them something. Well, that's just not the way it works. And these guys are steadily finding themselves more and more and more isolated because they're not nurturing any kind of good feelings. They're really burning every bridge that could possibly be burned, and it's not a pretty thing whatsoever. And I honestly, I want no part of it.
I mean, and even with like all these sexual allegations and all this stuff, it seems like every other week there's something coming out in the horror writing scene.
I think that the sexual assault and victimization and all these sort of things that we have heard about, I think it really comes down to the truth that some of these guys believe they are entitled, that they're owed this sort of thing. And we've seen this pop up in the past week with this whole "your body, my choice" bullshit, that's being said to women a lot. I don't think the audacity to say that out loud has been very common, but I do think that attitude for some men has been there this entire time. So what
Yes,
I really think that when you see some of these guys, they don't get a whole lot of power. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're still indie writers here. They get into a situation where they think, you know what, there a couple thousand people know my name. I'm being read, and here I am in this hotel room. I can do what I want, and if she doesn't love it, she can pretend to love it, and that is beyond toxic. And I think that toxicity puts people on edge, and it also puts people to where they have their shields up. If your shields are up all the time, you're not going to be comfortable either. And I really hate to think that it's only a couple of bad apples, but I really do believe that some of these guys could ruin it for everybody.
I agree. Now, as a writer? Listen, you follow indie horror writing. You've been doing this for a while. What is something positive that you're seeing right now that is getting you excited?
Well, I got to say that I just turned 50, and which is still blows my mind. I can't believe I'm 50, but I've been writing since I was a little kid. And I really kind of made my home in this indie world relatively recently because most of my novels have been published in England by very good, very respected English publishers. And somewhere along the line, a very good friend of mine, and I would dare to say she's a friend of yours as well, Nora Peavy,
Yes,
said to me, "You're a good writer. Here are some opportunities. I would love to work with you," and gave me some contacts for indie horror for getting shorter stories done because I've been focused on novels for so long. And I really believe that the positive that you're looking for there is in these great connections because these great connections can come along and they can lead to something beautiful. And I've found just in the past year, my connections in the American indie horror scene have more than quintupled. I think that I probably have hundreds more connections than I did this time last year. And the more connections I make, the more I show people, hey, I'm a professional. I edited your work with respect to you. You've read my stuff. You like what I do. I respect you. You respect me. We're willing to introduce each other to more people. I think that is what's continuing to make us grow. And I hate to say this as a positive because I hate negativity in general. I even try to avoid Schadenfreude to a degree, but I think that this whole sort of Me Too movement, this mini Me Too movement that we're having here within the indie horror industry or the community, has been beneficial for us to know kind of who our enemies are. And when someone goes and says, "Look, this happened to me," and this other person says, "I believe you," I think that does a world of positivity for people because I think that the same thing 10, 15 years ago would have been met with, let's keep this quiet. Let's not make waves. Let's just be cool about this. Did it really happen? Whereas I think these days what we're looking at is, I believe you. Let's not associate with these people. Let's back off. Let's join. Let's do our own thing. Even if we have to create something brand new, let's do that. And that way we can move forward together positively as opposed to, covering up something that should never have been happening in the first place.
but do you also believe in hearing both sides of the story?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think that if I think that those opportunities have been given. What I've seen many times is there have been, and again, I don't want to go too far into some of this without even naming the good
Yeah.
guys here, but when it comes to, there have been a lot of what I would consider the good guys who said, okay, great, you got something to say, come on this podcast with me and prove me wrong. And I've seen that offer be made several times. And I've seen some of who we consider maybe aren't the best have made that offer, and some of what we consider to be those who we consider to be the good guys have actually taken that. I've seen some very brave responses in some of these podcasts saying, okay, you're going to turn the tables. You're going to say, okay, to be brave, I need to join you. Okay, I'll do it. I know it's hostile, but I'll do it. They've done it. And I think that they came out looking much better. We've heard both sides. And, you know, I think that the courage of these people have been admirable to stand up and say, okay, yeah, sure, hit me with it. Let's hear it.
I agree. I mean, because I'd even like it a couple of times. I'd even like, hey, you guys had to come on this channel, unless, or even like the person who's being accused. But I just always found it weird that the person who's being accused stays silent.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like, because if I was accused of something like that, I wouldn't stay silent about it, because you stay silent about it, it makes you look guilty.
Yeah, and I think that that's a thing. And I think that, to be honest with you, I've known you for a few months. I've been on your show before. I've talked to you Facebook Messenger, a few other different ways over the time. I honestly have never seen you be less than fair. And I think that if there is a venue for that sort of thing, this would be a great venue for that sort of thing. But some of these folks, they are filled with vitriol. They don't want anything that they don't think that they have full control over. And I've seen some of these guys go on recent video casts, and the second that there's a comment, some of these live video casts, there's a comment appears at the bottom, and it goes from a relatively civil conversation to the guest using tons of profanity, insulting the commenter, boosting their own ego over and over again, just trying to tear people apart. That's not going to make you look better.
Yeah.
If you go on Travis Bruce's show here, you go in the horror realm and let him ask some tough questions, have a real conversation without freaking out, you might actually improve your case. If you're going to go
100%.
to you're going to go to one of the most friendly places and berate the commenters, you're only going to look crazy.
Yeah. And I'm 100% unbiased. Like, I can have anybody on, and I never take sides. Because I don't fucking know. This is not the place. This is not the place for me to be taking sides or being biased. I allow people to have a platform to say what they want to say. Exactly.
And one of the things that I think, and I'm not here to kiss your ass, obviously, but one of the things that
I love it.
Yeah. Well, but in all seriousness, one of the things that I very much respected is that you have been very open, and the only thing that you've done is ask, I'm not ready to talk about this yet. And I'm not going to, because you asked me not to talk about certain things, so I'm still not going to. But you said, okay, this is coming up. Let's not talk about this yet. But buddy, I trust you. I'm willing to share this. And then there's a difference. There's somebody who, like me, who is not going to talk about it and not going to betray your trust. And then you got somebody else who's going to go up and just betray your trust completely. Well, yes. This is the kind of the good thing about Travis Bruce. You got somebody here who's willing to confide in you, and all he asks is for trust back. So why don't you go on the show? And I also don't badmouth people who screw me over. I really don't. That's true. Because I do have the platform to do that, and because there's a lot of shitty people. There's a lot of shitty people in the indie horror industry. And I should say that it's not the majority. It's not the majority, but there's a lot of them out there, and I do not put them on blast. I don't. That's true. And I want to clarify to any listeners out there, when I say that he came to me and he told me this, somebody had betrayed his trust, he did that in a private message. Mm-hmm. And he did that because he knows I didn't talk about this other shit that I'm still not mentioning. I'm saying something, but He knows I'm not mentioning names. Travis is not putting anybody on blast. That's one of the good things. He trusts me. He knows I'm not going to screw him over. It was a private Facebook message. This is not me talking about a public Facebook post that he made. This is a decent guy.
Yeah, I I do not put people on blast. That's one thing I do not do. Um, yeah, I stay neutral. I stay
Amen.
neutral and everything.
Yeah. So
Now,
hey, this is your invitation, guys. Here he is.
yes, listen. If I say it all the time, anybody who gets accused of anything, this is the show to come on. This is not. I'm not bad mouthing the other shows, but this is a show to come on because I am not going to beat you over the head and say, "Well, you're awful to women. You're over there raping or something." I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know that. I stay biased. I don't jump on sides until you give me a reason to believe that you're this kind of person.
No, yeah, no, I can see you saying no. No, I've heard blank. Would you like to
Yep,
respond to blank?
yep. And that's how
Cannot
I keep
see.
it
Yeah,
professional,
I
1%
cannot see
professional.
Travis Bruce saying you did this and you know it. That's just not who you
No.
are.
Now, was it hard starting over again? I mean, so you had this book together. Was it tough to start from square one?
The first night, I thought so because what had happened was I really didn't even have a chance to respond. I was even getting messages from other people that this person was talking behind my back, going messages to them and bad mouthing me before I even had a chance to respond. And what it was all about was what originated it was that I was accepted into a different charity anthology. My former collaborator knew that and congratulated me for it. And months later, decided suddenly he had a problem with it and was going to give me an ultimatum. Now, to be fair, the answer would have been, hell no, you can't give me an ultimatum. I am my own free agent here. But I didn't even have that opportunity to say what my choice was. It was just a matter of, you know, just I'm going to give you this opportunity. And then suddenly I had all these messages flooding in. So that night, I absolutely thought, I put all this work into this. My reputation has been damaged because of some of the drama that's been going on. And now I'm being accused of things that just never happened. I thought this is going to be impossible. But it was at that point that these these wonderful writers, which make up honestly over half of the final book, almost all of them came with me, and they came and they said, "Look, we want to do this with you. We like the way you do things," and you know the responses that I was getting, that they were getting from this other guy, the accusations and stuff, they sounded so familiar. They already knew without me having to say anything what was true and what wasn't. So I thought, man, this is it. And by about noon the next day, I said, this might actually be happening. Because I had publishers reaching out to me, not one, multiple publishers reaching out to me saying, if you continue with this, we want it. And I had other people, new writers, coming to me saying, hey, I heard what happened. Here's my friend request. I would love to work with you either on this or something else if you can salvage it. And it got to the point where it's such a positive feeling. All these people rallying behind me, some of whom were really good friends already, which was a wonderful feeling. And I thank them greatly for. But, when I've got somebody like Neil Kelly, I first met Neil Kelly, who was the final author in this book. And I highly recommend reading his last story in here because it's brilliant. I first met Neil Kelly when I was 11 years old, and we've been close since then. I just turned 50. Okay.
Wow.
He's gonna stand up for me. He's gonna back me up. I know that. And I'm grateful for that. Then you got somebody else like Rocky Colavito, who I didn't know well before this. Like Sidney Williams, who I didn't know well before this. And he came in after the fact and he said, yeah, man, I've heard good things. I want to work with you. When I get stuff like this, Tom Erb comes over and he says, JC, I heard what happened. I want to be with you. I was riding a wave of just feeling really good. And I said, guys, I created a new Facebook group, and I said to everybody, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I promise you, there are no negative surprises coming. You already know who I am. I'm not going to suddenly turn on you guys and show this, fucking dipshit, side. It doesn't exist. And I would venture to say, if you look at the table of contents of this, and by the way, I don't know if I sent you a reader copy of this, but I'll be happy to send you a reader
I
copy so you
love
can
it.
look at it. Yeah,
I love it.
I will happily do that. But if you look at the table of content, anybody in this, I would be shocked if anybody had a negative thing to say, because people were happy with the way it turned out. And I'm a collaborative editor. I never came in there and said, okay, this has got to change. It's got to change. We've got so many great things in here that, yeah, I absolutely thought it was going to be hard. To answer your question directly, I thought it was going to be a nightmare. And it was one of the best, most rewarding, and, really creatively affirming experiences that I've had, not only as a writer, but as an editor. And I'm grateful to everybody who has been involved. Thank you so much, guys. You really.
Yes.
And another thing I said, I'm sorry if I'm rambling too much, but
You're fine.
you asked me if this is going to be hard, and I just get excited when I think about this. I kept saying to him, I said, this is not my book. This is our book. Whereas the previous version, it was, well, this is mine. You guys are going to do this for me. I insist. No, this is our book. And I think everybody who was involved got that feeling. We're contributing here. This is our book. JC is not, JC may be driving a little bit here, but we're all given directions. And that is the truth.
Now, what were your feelings when you saw that there was a similar book to this one being made?
I was fine with it, because I think that there's enough room for that. I do not think that you have to make a choice. If you're a Black Sabbath fan, if you're a horror fan, you got these options. But my previous collaborator, after canceling everything, decided he wanted to pick it up and go forward with what he had. That's cool. Um, one of us wants to badmouth the other one. One of us wants to say, this is terrible. You did this, you did that, you did the other thing. Then you've got me saying, we got room for both. Go ahead, bring it on. I don't really feel like we're in competition. I don't feel like the charities that we're contributing to are in competition. I think that honestly, I wish him the best. I wish that things didn't have to be so negative. I wish that things had been cooler at the time. But at the same time, I am absolutely not going to go and say anything but what happened. And if what I say happened is maybe feels a little negative, well, okay, that is what actually happened. But as far as wishing someone ill, as far as saying, hey, your version of this book, which you're doing with mostly new authors, is, I condemn it. I don't condemn it. And when it comes to other books, I'm actually submitting to other books of rock and roll, tributes that I'm extremely happy to be in, with some of these authors taking over as the editors. I don't have this ego saying, oh, no, I got to drive the bus if we're doing it. No, man, I'm submitting to you because I want these books made.
Yes.
So, yeah, get it done.
What's another heavy metal band that you're thinking about doing a tribute book to?
I'm glad you asked. Some of this stuff, especially in the last week, it's been very tense. Whenever this airs, just we're 7 days after the election, and I think we all have various different feelings about it. I don't want to turn this into a political thing, but I was already talking to some of the authors about what do we do, and we've got all kinds of different answers. And then we've got Jethro Tull is one, we've got Led Zeppelin is another. So many people have so many different ideas, from some of the biggest bands ever to some of the most underground, and which is awesome. And I got a little distraught last Tuesday, I'll admit, and I've kind of put that to the side. But one band that I am personally, whether we do this next or whether we do this 5 books down the line, I want to do Judas Priest, because I really think, I think a Judas Priest tribute would be amazing. They, similar to Black Sabbath, have a nice combination of science fiction, political commentary, and a lot of horror. I mean, a lot of horror. And I think that Judas Priest would be an excellent book to do that for. And so that's my dream. So whether that's the next one, I'm not sure. But as far as that goes, that is definitely one I want to get done.
Love it. I would definitely love to read that one, man. Listen,
Amen.
JC, where can everyone find you and your books?
I am on Amazon. I've got the Amazon page. There's a lot of these, as I mentioned. Again, special shout out to Dora Peavy. A lot of these shorter stories that are publishing now, you'll be able to find them so easily from my Amazon page. So if you were to go to Amazon just to look up Symptom of the Universe, you can go in there, click on my name. Not only will you find all of my books, but you'll also find links to all of the books that I'm appearing in. So there's going to be a lot of anthologies out there that I'm contributing to that I'm not the editor of. My name is not on the cover because I just want to be involved. But all 5 of my novels are up there on Amazon. You can also find me on Goodreads. And then if you want to follow me on Facebook, just do a quick search. Very easy. Crime author JC Macek III, Macek.
Yes. And JC, as you know, this interview is going to get a tons of views, and you know why it's going to get tons of views. But that's a good thing, though.
Absolutely, it's a good thing. And all I can say is, Travis and I have remained positive this whole time. We haven't named names. We haven't talked shit about anybody. So I mean, look, we're friendly guys. We're friends with each other, but we're friendly in general. So look, you could say a lot of things, but you can't be shitting on us for this interview.
Nope, not at all. All right, everyone. Well, listen, go out and grab your copies of Symptom of the Universe right there. A horror tribute to Black Sabbath. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's JC. We'll see you next time.
You're the best.
Take care.